Hello, this is Victoria, and this is my feasibility study for the procurement of locally grown Alaskan potatoes for the Fairbanks North Star Rural School District. At the beginning of the week, I spoke with Trevor Bridgewater, the Nutrition Services Assistant Director of Operations, who told me that the schools are already purchasing locally grown carrots and cabbages. Um, and I asked him what's next? What's on his wish list? And he told me broccoli and potatoes. And potatoes have a longer shelf life, so it seemed like the way to go next. So anyway, I also sent emails to 9 different farms and did not receive. No, I received one reply by retired farmers. So I'm not really sure what the position of the farmers um, would be in regards to partnering with the schools to um, sell their potatoes. But here is an example. I'm in Fairbanks, so this is known as the interior of Alaska, and it comprises Fairbanks and mainly Fairbanks and Delta Junction, some of the other outlying areas like Esther and Nenana. But Delta primarily grows a lot of barley, and they're in dairy and meat production. So this is the Goosefoot Farms. They are um, yearly expanding their acreage, and I didn't speak with them, but they may be an example of a local farm that would produce potatoes to sell to the school district. When I asked Trevor Bridgewater how many potatoes he thought he would need, he said that they purchase approximately 250 pounds of cabbage every 3 weeks, and he expected that they would have the same, could use the same amount of potatoes. Um, so this integration in the I plus PSE framework I chose was facilitate partnerships and multi-sector collaborations because I believe it would build connections and cultivate relationship among the farmers and the Fairbanks North Star Borough Nutrition Services Department. So potatoes are high in vitamin C and fiber and complex carbohydrates. They also medium potato is 37 grams of carbohydrate, and for children 6 to 13 years, 130 grams per day is a recommended amount. Um, so actually, that's for probably children all the way up to the teen years, maybe a little bit older than 13. So that would put for a child, the recommended amount of, or excuse me, the percentage would be about 29%. So one medium potato would be 29% of their recommended daily carbohydrate intake. Um, so this would promote unprocessed food consumption, and it would replace the district's current usage of instant and pre-sliced potatoes. So the current sourcing for Alaska potatoes is likely Washington, Idaho distributors, and the economic impact that Alaska potato growers are making right now is over $3 million annually straight into the Alaskan economy. The Fairbanks and Delta Junction area has, well, the interior, 15% of the state's population, so that's a small amount of population, and yet they grow about 20% of Alaska's potatoes. Um, they have about 31% of the state's potato acreage. Um, Under regulations and legislation, the federal regulation would be the National School Lunch and Breakfast Programs. USDA allows and encourages geographic preference for locally grown foods, meaning that schools can legally prioritize Alaska farms when buying protests. Um, the state programs would be the Department of Environmental Conservation, or the DEC, the Food Code, which governs, procurement, washing, storage, all food safety areas, and the Alaska Department of Natural Resources that oversees the Alaskan Grown program. We've all seen the Alaskan Grown sticker. The Alaska Department of Education and Early Development oversees the child nutrition programs, which coordinates the Alaska Farm to School program. Now, this is my SWOT analysis. Some of the strengths would be supporting the local economy, building regional food systems, and reducing carbon footprint. The funding for purchasing the potatoes is already in place. One of the weaknesses is that the school requires a dependable supply and low cost labor input, which means that they would have to buy the potatoes already pre-washed, but that is something that the potato farmers are already doing in Alaska. So they have the facilities for that, the infrastructure for that. The opportunities would be to expand community partnerships and increase awareness of locally produced foods. And one of the threats would be that the funds will expire, and then farmers have the cost of expanding facilities whenever they grow. So, like I said, the school district would need a supply of 250 pounds of pre-washed grade A Alaskan potatoes delivered every 3 weeks. Timeline would be from start in June, and by September they could evaluate the program and what the costs are. All foods that are served in schools must come from approved sources, meaning that farms or processors licensed or inspected by the DEC or the USDA have to follow food handling and sanitation protocols set by the DEC safety standards. Although whole uncut fruits and vegetables sold directly from farm to school may not require the same food establishment permit. Potato producers, as I mentioned before, they maintain storage, washing, and packaging facilities. So that is already in place to some extent. Partnerships would be with the local growers straight to the schools, and probably the transportation would probably be handled by local trucking, Tanana Valley Farmers Cooperative. So the current supply is imported from the lower 48 via large distributors, and the proposed system would just have a direct partnership right from the Alaska Grow Network. Currently, Alaska imports about 95% of its food So buying locally produced foods would definitely reduce the carbon footprint. That's one of the benefits of Alaskan grown, supporting local agriculture. The product is fresher, and so it will stay in storage longer. Um, some of the risk would be that it would be slightly more costly per pound. We have a shorter growing season, and there would be a dependence on small farm capacity. There's also another issue in the interior, which is permafrost farming. That can be an issue when people clear land and then the soil warms up and it can get quite wet. So that's also something that the farmers have to mitigate. So the local potatoes can be purchased under geographic preference USD rules, um, and the interior Fairbanks Alaska Delta Junction can meet the volume and shelf life requirements. Um, the target market is, as we said before, it's the food service, and the buying habits would be school value, consistent supply, pre-washed produce. Um, that would be something that could probably be worked out. They're already buying carrots and cabbages, so I don't see why it wouldn't work with potatoes. Um, as far as marketing approach, branding, because it's just going to the school, it's not something that we have to advertise out in stores. But the Alaskan Growed seal could be placed on school menus. So estimated cost and resources. The cost for purchasing the potatoes is funded by Alaska Grown Food Programs allocation. At least that's what I was told it was called, but I couldn't find any record of that. So it may actually be under the Nutritional Alaska Foods in Schools program, NAFS program. They were Fairbanks School District was allocated approximately $208,000 a year for 3 years, and some of those funds are still remaining, and they're using that to purchase their Alaskan grown products. Resources needed would be for the cold storage, which exists at district kitchens. And also the farmers are providing storage as well for their own crops. There would be some staff time for procurement coordination, but that already happens at the door when they get their deliveries. And then there'd be transport of the local deliveries every 3 weeks. So there's a cost associated with deliveries. Perhaps if it came from the same farms, that would be something that the cost could be absorbed into just a single delivery. Okay, so for the review, um, before the system or the new process is implemented, the school would have to evaluate the supplier reliability data, because that's the most important thing to the school district, that they have a reliable supply. The evaluation metrics would be delivery reliability, student satisfaction with the product, and waste and spoilage rates. So in conclusion, Alaskan grown potatoes for the school district lunches is a feasible project under the existing nutrition funding structure. The next step would be to find partnerships and data collection, and then work out a long-term procurement plan. And these are my references. And thank you.